Hello everyone, I'm Ayushi Garg. I welcome you all for today's webinar. Our topic for the webinar is one-to-one discussion on Hathras gang rape and role of police in criminal investigation. It's an honor for all of us to welcome today's speaker, Mr. Jayant Bhatt, on board. Mr. Bhatt is an eminent lawyer in the High Court of Delhi and also has the experience in the corporate sector. Holds dual Master of Law, that is LLM from New York University, USA and National University of Singapore. Mr. Bhatt worked in a prestigious law firm, Clyde and Company in Dubai as well. Sir, my first question to you is that what triggered you to leave corporate law practice and move back to India and start from scratch as a litigating lawyer?
Ma'am, strictly speaking, though I was in a corporate firm, but I was in the disputes dispute resolution team. Strictly speaking, I was never a corporate lawyer. I was always a litigation lawyer because in Clyde& Co, I was in the litigation team. I was handling the litigation there. And the dream was always to come back, to the country. There was never a doubt, a speck of doubt in my mind that I have to come back and serve the nation and serve the people of this country. So I think that has always been my motto. And I think Dubai, to me, came as a welcome break at a time where when I had student loan on my head, I had financial responsibilities to discharge. So I think that came just about the right time in my life. And once I had repaid back my education loan, I came back and I worked at different offices before starting on my own.
Okay, sir. Thank you. Moving forward, so, as we are well aware of the dreadful incident that took place in the Hathras district of UP, such cases act as a stigma to our society. Police plays an important role in such criminal cases. There are plenty of questions that arise after such incidents takes place. So, my next question to you is after the horrific incidents of Hathras that took place on 14th of September 2020, where a 19-year-old Dalit girl raped by four upper caste men, as per the statement of mother of the victim, she took her to police station after the alleged incident, but the police rejected to file the FIR and even humiliated the family of victim. The question is, what should be the role and duty of police in such cases?
Madam, there are the thing that I think we need to understand and appreciate is this. Let's not put this into a caste bracket or a class bracket or any other bracket because at the outset it's an offense of rape, where unfortunately a woman was subjected to brutal torture and a young woman lost her life. This obviously is not the first incident which has happened in this country or in the world because rape as an offense is always, a very haunting experience to any victim who may have survived and to the victim's family who may not have survived, if they are also subjected to a crime like murder, which is accompanied by rape or gang rape. So I would say yes, definitely it's a ghastly crime. The culprits or the accused who are there should be put to task, but by a means of fair trial. That is always something I say, because we have a court system, we have a trial system which has to put to test the actual use of judicial wisdom and knowledge to realize whether the person who have been charge sheeted or who have been made accused in a crime are the real perpetrator of the crime or not. Were they actually the person who committed this crime? Were there four of them? Were there two of them? Who were the actual culprit? So these things have to be seen. They have to be the case has to be analyzed because I have briefly read about this case, and I think what transpired upon in the newspaper and other columns that I went through is that she was apprehended from the field where the family was working in a farm area, and then her brother and the mother were the eyewitness before whom she was, taken hostage and then taken to the field, and this, inhumane act was committed upon her. So I think we'll have to see how the matter pans out. There's a lot of anguish in people. People are angry about it. Obviously, every time such sort of dastardly acts happen, it shakes the conscience of everybody, and we are all a part of civil society. Such incidents really, demoralizes the spirit of society by and large. So I think we have strong laws in place. Let's see what the court has to do.
Okay, sir. Let's move forward. In India, the rape and criminal cases are increasing at high speed. Many a times, evidences are mobbed and witnesses become hostile. This whole setup just further the idea of how justice delayed is justice denied. What reforms that you feel can be brought about to improve the system in our country, both at ground level and at surface level?
Madam, I think so far as the ground level is concerned, I think policing has always been a major problem because it's an open secret, that if a powerful person or if a powerful entity tries to get a FIR lodge, it will get registered in a second. That has historically, unfortunately, been the reality in a society. A normal person, if they go to a police station, first a diary entry will be taken, then no investigation will take place, then you will report to the DCP or the DIG, depending if you're in a commissionerate or in a state police. Then you will go in a 156(3) CRPC to the court, to the magistrate, please have my FIR registered. That may or may not happen depending who the magistrate is, what is their knowledge of law. So on the ground level, I think there are a lot of problems that first we need to sort out. In terms of policing, we need prompt policing. We need more police people on ground. We need more police jockeys. We need more police stations. We need more police personnel and less police personnel doing VIP service. Simple as that. Because the moment you give Z plus security, Y security, D security, whatever it is, then it means that you are taking your attention away from the common citizen of this country who, to my mind, needs an equal protection, if not less. So that is one thing that we have to understand. The other thing is, I keep telling this to people in different webinars that I attend, that we also need a robust judiciary in terms of better infrastructure, more number of judges, so that we have faster access to justice by everybody in this country, and that is paramount. That has to be understood. The other, madam, ground realities are that we also need a good witness protection program, which does not exist in our country. Like unlike in US or in UK and in other countries where they have very, very robust witness protection program where the eyewitnesses are protected, they are taken away to a location which is not accessed by the accused, they are kept underground. That is something that is still not in the country. Why it is not done? It is left best to the decision makers. But I think it's high time these things were put to place, put in black and white in terms of making legal amendments or reforms or legislation. And we need those things because not only are we protecting the interest of the victim or their family members or a disease as in this case, but we have to see that the witnesses are the backbone of any trial, and if witnesses are not protected, if they're going to turn hostile, then how do we expect a prompt or a fair justice to be rendered to people? And that is something, that we have to acutely think of. We have to think in those directions so that we can quickly, put these reforms into practice. Look, every passing day, information is only going to get faster, not slower. Which means in a democracy, if you want to live in a democracy with uncertainty, if you want to live in a society where incidents are reported but justice is not done, or justice, as you said, is delayed because it's time consuming, it's time taking, then it gets very frustrating for every stakeholder in the country, be it a victim, be it the prosecution, be it the judge, be it a defense lawyer. Because we all go to court to get justice. We are all fighting the same fight, maybe for different plans, yes, but the cause is justice. So the idea is all these reforms have to quickly take place. Maybe it's time that a committee was constituted, or maybe Parliament need to sit specially for these sessions. I know that Parliament and state legislatures are already burdened immensely with other type of laws. They have to draft all variety of laws in the country. Criminal reform is just one of them. But we need a society which feels safe at the end of the day. You don't want your daughters, your sisters, your mothers, your lady relatives to be feeling scared when they go out of the house, be it any locality in the country. The idea is how do you ensure safety? How do you ensure that peace of mind for a woman in this country when they step out in the society? And that is something that I think the police, the justice system and the government system needs to realize sooner than later.
Totally agree, sir. Sir, so the next question for you is, police stated that as per the forensic report, the victim was not raped as semen was not found in the private part of the body. As per your opinion for young lawyers, can accused take such medical report as a ground to remove the charge of rape? Please elaborate from your past experiences.
So, madam, I'll give you a very basic example. In fact, I was quoted with this question in BBC Hindi just about 4-5 days ago. They reached out to me for a comment specifically on this issue that the MLC or the medical legal report says that there are no traces of semen on the body of the deceased. And I said, look, you have to look at this question. You have to dissect what has happened, and you have to look at it very objectively. Now, there is no denying that a lady is dead. A young woman is dead of 19 years of age, if I'm not wrong, and a murder has taken place. Now, if it is not a case of suicide, if it's not a case of natural death, it's a case of homicide or murder, right? And that is something that nobody can deny at the moment. What has caused this murder? It's a crime. Crime always, uh, you know, it premeditates a cause. What was the cause of premeditation? This we talk of mens rea and actus reus, right? What was the motive for this crime to have been acted upon? Was the motive to rape this person? That has to be drawn from circumstantial evidence. When the charge sheet is filed. So just saying that semen is not available, I think our audience must also be aware that post Nirbhaya in 2013, when the criminal law was amended in this country, both in terms of criminal procedure, in terms of evidence, and in terms of the definition of rape in Indian Penal Code, a very wide definition of rape is now, inserted in the Section 375. So if you read Section 375 of IPC, it categorically says that penetration doesn't mean it has to be vaginal penetration. It can be penetration of any sort in any part of the body. So it doesn't talk of semen specifically, and that is something that we need to understand. The public today runs amok because they are relying heavily on the media reports and on the 24/7 media circus which goes on, and there is no end to it. And as lawyers, as young law students, as member of civil society, we have to have a very rational objective in assessing things and how they're happening. Okay, MLC report may have not come correctly, or there may be some fallacy to it, or it may be right. I don't know because I'm not privy to the matter. It's still under investigation. But the moment charge sheet is filed, the nature of the murder will also have to be probed upon. So that will definitely put things to rest, and that's the test now which the authorities or the police investigation authorities have to now answer to the public that what has caused this murder. Okay, you say it's not rape, then what has caused the murder? Please answer us on this, and that will clarify a lot of issues in this particular Hathras matter.
Yes, sir. This could not be the ground then. So the next question is, everyone knows about the importance of police investigation. What is the difference of work by police in the present case of Hathras gang rape, especially on the grounds of transparency of evidence and reports?
Madam, look, police has a bounden duty to investigate a matter because the moment a criminal case is, it springs into action, it becomes a case of state versus so and so. And by state, I mean, every state in this country, state is a very, crime is a very state specific subject. So police has a bounden duty to investigate a crime properly and then prepare a charge sheet and file it in a court of law. How much are they allowed to leak it to the public? I do not know. I don't think it's allowed unless there is a RTI filed to that effect, or maybe a commissioner of the police or a DIG or a DG for public information comes out in the open and gives a news coverage to the effect that look, investigation is going on, because at the end of the day they are also public servants. They are accountable and they are answerable to public. So if that is happening, yes, police has a bounden duty not only to properly investigate a matter but also to give the right information, to relay the right information to the public at large. Because if the public is obviously enraged by a particular incident, because this incident is not just about a young girl who has died or who was brutally raped or on whom a crime has been committed, we all suffer a crime when we read about it. It affects our mental health, it affects our thinking, it affects our thinking about our own family members, extended family members, our friends, our well-wishers, the women in our life. We think about their well-being. So that's why a heinous offense like rape and investigation has to be taken extremely seriously. Police has to show promptitude in this. There are no two ways about it. And police cannot take this excuse that okay, we are extremely burdened and we can't discharge our duty. If you can't discharge your duty, resign. Simple as that. And if you can't discharge your duty, at least go and tell your superiors to recruit more people. Ask your state government, ask your central government, ask the government of this country. It doesn't matter. I'm not even getting political into this, but just ask the powers to recruit enough people to secure the citizens of this country. Sorry.
Yeah. Okay, sir. Can we start with the second question, sir?
Yes, ma'am, please.
Yeah. India is one country where money, position, and connections play a very important role, and hence, a lot of times the entire force is transferred to high profile cases, against creating a feeling of hopelessness towards our justice system. So, as a lawyer, what are your suggestions or opinion to solve this problem?
Madam, I don't think it's an India-related problem. When we talk of power, when we talk of money, when we talk of influence, what applies to India applies to all the countries in the world. It's human nature. You have to understand that. It's a matter of human civilization, how we have progressed throughout the history. Uh, पहले राजा और प्रजा होती थी. प्रजातंत्र में प्रजा को राजा माना जाता है, पर ऐसा होता नहीं. To put things into perspective. Um, that doesn't mean that our justice system is not working. As I said, there are lacunas in terms of better infrastructure, more number of judges. That's a problem which has to be tackled. But that doesn't mean that the justice is not, the system is not working or justice is not being served. It is being served day in and day out. I know there are equally number of honest, hardworking judges who even work overtime to give justice. So it's not the case that the system is collapsing. Yes, policing, I would say, is a matter of concern because as a criminal lawyer, I represent clients. I've even represented states. I represented, government also. So sometimes I also know what is the state duty and obligation. But having said that, I've seen by and large in my practice that police can show some empathy to the victim. It can show proper mechanism to investigation, and they need to train their staff properly as to how an investigation should go about. Now, you cannot botch up a crime scene before evidence is sent to forensics or a forensic lab, because if that gets corrupted, or there is a mishandling of a proper evidence, then it will compromise the trial. So police has to be trained, the investigation and I would say the vigilance on that investigation has to be, extremely crucial. And I think we need to tweak our system a little bit because even when the investigation is going on, I think it should be court supervised. What happens is we have given the whole power to police saying that, okay, you investigate, prepare a charge sheet and then file it in the court of law and then the judge will take cognizance. I think the right process ideally would be the moment a FIR is filed, let the magistrate take charge and also supervise the investigation. Whether the investigation is being done properly or not, so that the police then knows, look, there is a court monitored investigation every matter. I think that should solve our problem to some extent.
Yeah. Once it becomes a political agenda, things change, police behavior gets changed. Yeah. So, sir, moving forward, there are as many as 20 plus FIRs have been filed regarding the same crime. Will it help in getting justice to the victim or will it only create a lot of chaos?
Madam, I think it has already created bad publicity. I would not say if it's chaos, but definitely bad publicity for the state. It shows that state is high and mighty, and if state wants, in a snap of a finger, you can get as many FIRs lodged as you want. It may have been done in good zest, but I would say it has backfired in terms of publicity and media handling. So I think the right move, according to me, ideally would have been just lodge one FIR. In a fact of the matter, if you think that there are disruptors, there are people who are antisocial, there are people who are creating problems in a state, one FIR is sufficient. Police is as it is a state subject, so why get 21 FIRs? I also put a post on LinkedIn saying, you are not only wasting public money, you are wasting time of so many policemen in so many police stations if 21 FIRs have been lodged in different police stations. So that's a waste of time and public money. And state exchequer, the moment we pay tax, you are accountable to our money. My money is resting with you, so please don't waste it. And that is very important. On the other side, the FIR which is pending in a rape matter is being investigated independently. The other FIR, at least on the face of it, looks like that the state is trying to curb free speech or trying to have a high-handedness or something like that. Is the state entitled to do it? Absolutely. In law, what right you have is what right I have. If I am aggrieved as a state, I can also go to a police station and say, please lodge a FIR because people are attacking the state. I'm not saying state is wrong in law, but being wrong or right in law is a secondary issue here. The main question is, were 21 FIRs actually required? And if today a common person, as I said previously, goes to a police station, it takes weeks, even months to get a FIR registered. So this shows that there is no level playing field. When we talk of fairness, when we talk of equality, when we talk of the basic mandates enshrined in the Constitution of India, this comes as a disservice to the people of this country. This comes as a blow to the faith that you repose in a system. And when I say system, I mean policing, I mean bureaucracy, I don't mean justice. Judges are still doing their work, as I said. But policing and bureaucracy have to be spot on. You can't be subservient to your political masters all the time. You have to think of the people. You are answerable to the people. That's why you're called a public servant. So if that's not happening, madam, then obviously, there is something amiss somewhere, and then we have to have a system in place. People before you and me, people after us will also debate on these points. But I hope by the time the debate progresses in the next 5 or 10 years, things have improved substantially in our country.
Yeah, hope the things will get better soon. Okay, sir. Thank you so much for answering all very precisely and giving your valuable time. It was a great pleasure for us to gain knowledge from your side. There is a need in a society to educate people to make them aware of the rights that each and every person of India holds, irrespective of their caste, creed, gender, etc. No person has a right to apply force on another person. With the hope of getting justice for the young girl, this is Ayushi Garg, would like to sign off, and for the courses and blogs log into lawflu.com. Thank you.